There was a small decline in total group assets, right, of about 1.17%. My analysis was that this was really a rebasing of South Sudan.
Correct.
And that's what led it. Would you just tell us just about that headline number, how you saw it?
So obviously we look at what is the growth on the actual overall loans for our business for the group at 8% and for Kenya business at 11% on year, which for me is a strong growth. And we, over the year, last year in December specific, there was, a technical review on the currency for South Sudan against the US dollar. So we moved from what they call a fixed rate to more of a variable rate. So effectively we are revaluing the assets on a different kind of basis. And for you to see like to like, from last year, our businesses overall assets would be up by 14% if you look at it from a year-on-year basis without the devaluation. But now we're in a new regime, which I think is the right regime, allow the currency to float. And the country is doing dramatic amount of work to support this currency. You need to build foreign currency reserves. The country has got a lot of oil reserves, there's no doubt. And and they have credit facilities already organized with the IMF and the World Bank to support. It's just that the facility has not been dispersed over a period of time. And so in our view, it's more of a technical evaluation as you look at the numbers last year and this year. And the 70% reduction on assets is perhaps just putting our assets in the right picture in South Sudan. And much of that is now done. Our loans were roughly 6 billion in December. They're now 1 billion in South Sudan, which is not a big amount.
No, not at all.
95% of our business is much more fees and commission and transactions. And as that picks up, you see, I tend to see that South Sudan gives us a completely new opportunity. For an economy like Kenya, where we've midwifed and negotiated the peace agreement a couple of years ago in 2005 and 6. And whereas we see Kenyan businesses being nervous around South Sudan, I see it very opposite. I see that Kenya should be in the forefront of taking the real opportunity to catalyze growth in that market. And over time, we'll be proven right. Because we see that in economies where you go early enough and invest, I believe you have a chance to reap the greatest benefits. So we're becoming a catalyst in that market. Time will tell.
It was interesting what you were saying, that it's much more transactional now. You've reduced the loan book, so you've repositioned, you're confident and then you were mentioning yesterday that the UN was using you as a conduit to reach, because you're very committed to South Sudan, Joshua. You're in every, what do they call them, in every county? Or
our kind of business in South Sudan, Alikan, is more of a long-term business. I don't think you can run business in this kind of markets in Africa having a short-term view. So long-term would mean it's a 10 years, a 20-year business. And also I'm very excited about the role that the United Nations does in South Sudan. There's a lot of partnership from the United Nations. There's a lot of work from the United States, US. And what we believe is that the little issues will be addressed. The disagreement among the new leaders, it's not unique in an African country that this problem arises. What is important is how are you addressing, either through IGAD, the Great Lakes, the UN, how do you use all these bodies together to find a political solution to the problem?
And you feel confident there is a path?
And I've spoken to a lot of people, our own delegation from Kenya into South Sudan, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, and what we see is that they are confident. And two aspects are happening in South Sudan. So one is that all these states are running their own businesses with their own. I love that the country is now building non-oil revenues as a platform of building their own growth. And a year, 2 years ago, it was 98% of their revenues coming from oil. When you look at it now, it's more or less like 60% is oil. So they're dramatically shifting their revenue base.
That's incredible. People seem to have missed that.
Bringing in new taxes, bringing in your own customs at the border, bringing in some VATs. This is really, and for an economy of that nature, it's quite easy to build a 50-50 basis of revenue collections in 5 years. And that starts building new businesses, new entrepreneurship. So we see a different story ourselves. Granted, there's a devaluation of a currency, but over time, every single currency globally, which is being pegged to the dollar, does devalue itself to compare with the markets. So I would say, yes, 1% reduction on assets, but overall 11% growth in earnings, in loans in Kenya, and 8% for the group.